Rich, we were wondering where you were.
Well, hold on now.
And Liz informed us that you were putting your ears in.
I'm putting my ears in.
And then we wondered how long that actually took. I personally can walk and do that at the same time.
I can't, as you can see, they're still not in.
Oh, Rich.
I'm not what they call gifted. This is where I go. I'll forget it. You know what? Screw you, I'm taking my time.
What?
Yeah, here.
Wait, what are you doing, bro?
You're pushing it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for a great day. Enjoy your dinner break. Take care. Bye. I forgot this. I thought you were just here to watch us sign you out for the night. Ladies and gentlemen, not the best thing to happen to Trish Coates since the invention of the pervert. Misha! I couldn't find the entrance to the stage back there, and I remember just never being able to get up here. And you guys feel the next hour on your own. I got news for you, dude.
That's every Saturday.
Yeah, that'd be pretty much. This is one of the rare times that you're actually on time for your panel.
You know what's funny is they get up here, they have this whole shtick they do, like, where's Misha? And the thing is, where I am is I'm finishing up doing the photos or something. I'm doing something that I'm forced to do.
Right.
I'm not saying at gunpoint, at knife point, and then I don't understand why you guys don't just wait until I'm backstage to start a stupid fucking song.
And thanks for,
I'm crying foul because
it's a great imitation of him that
It's actually more flattering than the actual. Here's where I'm crying foul on you because
what?
You don't. Yes, you're not. You're doing. Sometimes you have to do photos. Sometimes you have to autos. I get it.
Sometimes.
But you do not have to. I know that you know yourself well enough, and you sometimes I think you specifically time your boots to be right where you're supposed to be coming on this stage.
Okay, that may be true.
Because there's been more than one time where I'm like, we're starting the song, and I'm looking at her and like, where is it? And she's like, he's in the can. I'm like, oh really?
Yeah, it's poop o'clock.
Yeah. So come on, teamwork. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
that reminds me of where the hell were we? We were at a convention. Maybe it was Toronto a year ago or something, and you and I came out of the bathroom together, and the handlers were like, and we were chatting and very casual, and I think the convention was at that point about 4 hours behind, and they were like, Richard, stop talking to him. What are you doing? Get away from him. And what are you doing in there? And you said, it's Misha Collins. He's not going to hold his own penis. The amazing thing about that moment was, excuse me?
sorry,
What's crazy is that I was right next to that mime and I suddenly felt like I shouldn't be in the room.
Okay, can you please leave the stage?
Ladies and gentlemen, Misha Collins.
Everybody, all of the handlers were slack-jawed too, because they were like, oh my God, Richard said something funny. How are you all?
Waiting for you.
I don't think this format is working, guys. This conversation. conversation between one person and 1,000 people was
Works in my head.
very exciting to be back in the greater New York, New Jersey area, the tri-state area. What's the tri-state? This is not the tri-state area. Shut up, Misha. What?
Connecticut.
Is it Pennsylvania? Do we call it the tri-state area? Is it Connecticut? Why are we leaving Connecticut out and not Pennsylvania, or vice versa? Why isn't the quad street called quad? What? This doesn't work.
New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut is the tri-state area.
No, it's New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
No, it's not.
Throw down, you guys. I want to see a brawl before the end of this. It's the people that live a little bit closer to Pennsylvania against the people that live a little closer to Connecticut. They've always hated each other.
But all my news is Connecticut.
Yay, Rhode Island.
Jerry Springer.
I believe my very first convention was in New Jersey. Of everyone in this room, I think I'm probably the only one that was there. What? Well, guys, it's time to move on and do something different. Wait, so show of hands. Holy hell!
New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
How would you, those of you who were there, so that was what, 11 years ago? 2009, that's right, that's 15 years ago. It was a little trick. Well, how would you characterize the difference between me then and me now?
More of a shit show.
Much harder.
Let's leave it there. I think that was a great answer.
She meant then.
You were younger.
Younger? Now let's table that one. Yeah, I have some fond memories. We just went and did the adventure meet and greet, which these days is more just like Misha takes the meet and greet to some shitty place. And
Starbucks.
but New Jersey, when we were in Whippany, New Jersey, we had a couple of really standout meet and greets. One early on, we wound up on the shoulder of a highway.
You can.
Which was awesome. And everyone was like, really? We're just going to stop here? Yep. Because compared to the location, the conversation will seem okay. And then we went into the woods another time, and it was like, oh, it was also, it seemed like we were in maybe like what used to be a landfill. There was garbage everywhere in the woods.
No, that's just New Jersey.
Right next to the hotel where the convention was. And we sat on a log, it was rotten, and there were all these bugs crawling all over everyone. And then someone had matches, and so I started a fire. And so many people came running out of the hotel with fire extinguishers. Because they have this, I didn't know, but in New Jersey they have this weird thing about forest fires. I'm just trying to do all of my New Jersey stories so we can get through this hour. I rode my bike when I was 16 from Massachusetts to Washington, D.C. And along the way, it was bicycle touring, is what I was doing. And along the way, I was riding and I got to the outskirts of Jersey City. And I had my tent on the back of my bike and very little money. I was like, you know, it's dusk, but it's not dark. I think I can make it through Jersey City, out to the other side, and then I'll find a place to camp there. And what I didn't know, no one could have known, all of the roads in Jersey City are paved with broken glass. And so I got flat tire, flat tire, flat tire, and eventually it was pitch dark, and I didn't have lights, and I was on some like freeway on-ramp. I was lost. This was before there were, Google Maps, and I was like, this isn't working. And I ended up in at a motel that only rented rooms by the hour.
Yeah.
And I got into my room and there were ticks crawling on the bed, and then someone knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and there was a guy with a roll of $100 bills in his hands, and he was like, "What can I get you?" And I was like, "Oh, there's a tick on my bed. Get rid of that." And he was like, "All right," and he left, and then a prostitute came and knocked on the door, and so I got very little sleep. Okay, I'll talk about something else. Well, my kids just had birthdays. They're getting old, and what?
I think she said adopt her.
Adopt you? Who said that? Do you currently have legal parents? Are they sitting right there with you? Okay, well that's awkward. They're at a very fun age, very cute, very observant. The other day I tweeted about this case and said, not that everyone's always saying that mermaids are so beautiful with their long flowing hair and their clamshell bras, but really if you think about it, they probably have sea worms in their hair, and they're wearing nothing, and they're half fish. They're kind of disgusting, actually. She's very insightful like that. What?
Start responding.
This doesn't work. Okay, that's enough about Misha. What would you like to talk about?
Hi, Misha.
Hi.
So I just wanted to say, I heard you say one time that you don't think you deserve to be where you are. And I just wanted to say you absolutely do. You are a wonderful person, and you've got a lot of people around you.
That is very kind of you to say. And I vacillate about thinking I deserve to be where I am at any given moment. Like, for example, when I was at that motel, I was like, yeah, I deserve this. But thank you. Is that it? That was your question?
I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to tell you that you really do deserve where you are.
Thank you for being sweet. Now we have this awkward
Yeah, nice jacket.
this awkward thing where a jacket that's too warm that I was using to cover up the fact that I had big sweat stains on my t-shirt. It's just compounding the problem. By the way, I'm sorry to everybody who took a photo with me earlier.
How you doing, Misha? Just want to tell you that I think you're a great actor. Happy you didn't get killed off the show yet.
Well, I have been killed many times, but...
Yeah, but you always come back, so it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, who cares, right?
Well, I just want to know if there's anything you wish Castiel had done differently throughout the series of the show.
I think in a perfect world, I think Castiel would have had a higher pitched voice. That was a mistake. Terrible, terrible mistake. Most of you have heard this story, but those of you who haven't are going to be in for a pretty boring story. When I first joined Supernatural, in the very first script where Castiel appears, he's trying to communicate with Dean, and he's not yet taken a human form, and when he tries to communicate with Dean, windows break and televisions explode, and Burned out the young lady's eyes? No, that's not right. It's wrong, I said. That's when she saw me. But we're talking about my voice right now. Don't distract me right now. So I thought, well then Castiel has to have this like deep, commanding voice. Like one that would break windows. Or, as it turns out, just break my own vocal cords, because I thought I was doing 3 episodes of Supernatural, and it turned into my entire adult life. And then I had to talk like that for the last dozen years. But when I did that, there's maybe a little bit of poetic justice in it, because when I started doing that deep voice, Jensen was like, oh, does this guy have more testosterone than me? And he started to do a deep voice too, so now, because he's so competitive, he had 12 years of a deep voice as well. So that was sort of satisfying. So that's one thing that I would do differently, and I think I would also maybe have Castiel be human for longer. I really liked that arc, but I felt like we didn't get to explore that story enough. Like the process of discovering what it's like to be a human being, and all of the pitfalls along the way, I think could have been interesting to explore more. We got to see like, oh, what's it like when you learn how to brush your teeth for the first time as an adult, and you just eat a tube of toothpaste. But I think that there were a lot of potentially emotional storylines or arcs about like relating to other human beings as a human being that we didn't get to explore that could have been interesting. And yeah, there were a lot of things that we never really explored. Like, Casket's food poisoning for the first time. What's that like?
Tips from the pizza.
And he can't find a bathroom. You know, that could have been an entire episode.
I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Hi.
Be careful, by the way, when you put your phone down around here. I was on set 2 days ago, and I was reading an article, which, by the way, everyone should look up. It's really important and fascinating in these trying times. It's important to stay informed. And there's an article in the New York Times about how to cook the perfect hard-boiled egg. And I was like, I can't believe I've gone through life not knowing this. And I was showing Frida, who's in the makeup department, and I was like, here, and then they said, come to set, the first team on set, and I was like, okay, don't tweet anything, leaving you with this, I trust you, and she's like, you trust me, and I believe her, and then I left, and Jason Cicchini, Jared's stand-in, as soon as I went out the door, just grabbed the phone from her, and started doing terrible, terrible things on the biggest, the text thread with the most people he could find. Many of whom were just numbers with no names, like I don't know who those people are. And they got some very offensive images from me. I'm sure there will be fallout from that for years to come. But you didn't ask about that.
But don't you have a password like that? How can he get in your phone?
I just explained the whole story. Frida was reading the article on my phone.
Oh, and he's
Yeah.
But this has happened a lot.
Okay. You know what? I wasn't really asking for feedback just now.
You started talking about it.
I remember when we were at Comic-Con, so at Comic-Con, we have a sort of different setup at San Diego Comic-Con. We do 100 autographs that are for people that stand in line all night long. Totally worth it. But we're standing sort of right next to each other in this semicircle table. And I set my phone down while I was signing, and apparently I had just checked my messages or something because it wasn't yet locked. That minute hadn't passed. And Jared was signing, and he just grabbed the phone and then tweeted at Comic-Con, I hate fans. And then, oops, that was supposed to be a text.
Yeah, you gotta get in the habit of locking.
That went over really well, let me tell you.
Yes, I do have to get in that habit. Thank you again. I didn't ask for feedback. Do you have a question?
I was gonna ask.
But you've changed your mind?
If you had any tattoos, or if you were going to get any in the future, and what would it be?
Do you have any tattoos?
Just a few.
I can't see you.
You can come to me.
She's just looking for your influence.
I don't have any tattoos. I'm sorry to report. I have a couple of like early teenage childhood angst scars where I like tried to carve tattoos into my body. Like I thought it was cool. Did a peace symbol, and then because I'm really existential, the word "Y" with a question mark on my calf. Those are very faded though, they're pretty hard to make out at this point. And right after I carved Y on my leg, I was like, shit, why did I do that? Actually, it's funny, that day, it was me and my younger brother, and we were like making tattoos into ourselves, and then for some reason, we high-fived, but we high-fived while he was holding the X-Acto knife. So actually, that's where my big scar is. He just plunged the knife into my hand. We were smart. So, my wife and I were planning to get tattoos. We are planning to. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time, but we haven't gotten around to. And they're related to stories and to our children, and I'm going to tell you both. Wes was born in the year of the white tiger, and which I guess occurs like once every 50 years and I think it's a feature of Korean culture. But Vicky, when we went to a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and she had this very strong vision of a white tiger crawling out of her back. And then Wes was born subsequently in the year of the white tiger. And she's like, this is meaningful to me. I'm going to get a tattoo of a white tiger. And then before I shared that story publicly, a fan made this incredible painting that they gave to me at a convention of Vicky standing on a A-frame ladder, like in a subway, painting a mural of a white tiger. And it was like, it was a truly beautiful painting, but it was also really, it was like, okay, there's a lot of signs here that she should get, or maybe that she will be killed by a white tiger, I don't know. And then when Mason was born, West immediately, he was 2, and he immediately gave her a nickname, which was Sockeye, which has nothing to do with the name Mason or we had no idea why he was calling her Sockeye, but he was calling her Sockeye. And then shortly after that, me and my friend Darius were we were bicycle touring on the Olympic Peninsula, and we had just ridden through the town of Forks, Washington, which is way out, and it's where Twilight is set. And we were on this, in the town of Forks, Washington, we were went into a grocery store, what would be nice right now? It would be nice to get some salmon. And so we went looking around the grocery store, and they just had these really desiccated, frozen little nuggets of salmon. And that wasn't really what we had in mind. And so we asked this woman that was in the freezer section, do you know where we can get some salmon in town? And she said, no, there's nowhere. And then she walked away, and then she came back, and she's like, I just went to the food bank, and a fisherman had brought in these big fillets of fresh sockeye salmon, and I feel like I have to give it to you. It's just too weird that you asked me that. And we were like, sweet, yeah, you did. So we took this in, and we put it on the back of our bikes, and then we started riding again. And we went down this road and up this mountain, And coming down the mountain, it was this huge hill, and we decided to race each other. We were going as fast as we possibly could, and hit each other. Because we forgot that we had saddlebags on our bikes, so we were too close together. And we had a crash, and it was a terrible accident. Darius was unconscious in a ditch. I was like just covered in blood, and then when he woke up, he couldn't remember where we were. He had amnesia, and I was in shock, and it was this, we were standing there on this road in the middle of nowhere, and no cars came by. Finally a car came by. It's this big old Lincoln Continental, and I was like, help, in my bike shorts, covered in blood, friend lying on the ground, and he stopped. I was like, can you take us to, a hospital or something, because there's no cell service out there? And he's like, no, I'm sorry, I just went to Costco and my back seat's full. It was fucking full of toilet paper, and he drove away. Eventually we did get to a hospital, but in the process, the salmon was left in the ditch. And we had this very sort of profound moment of realizing that we made this into a symbolic story for ourselves, which is that life sometimes hands you these gifts from out of nowhere. And you have to be there and be ready to take those gifts and not squander them. And that really stuck with me. So the tattoo that I eventually am going to get is a sockeye salmon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. So I just wanted to ask, since Supernatural I think has changed all of our lives and your guys' lives, what's the one thing you're going to take away from being part of the Supernatural family?
Probably one of the Impalas. Thank you. Over Jensen's dead body, but. Well, Supernatural has changed my life in a lot of ways. What am I going to take away from it? Hopefully a lot of gratitude for all of the good things that it has brought, not only to me, but I think to the world. I feel like I'm walking this like tightrope and talking about the end of the show because I don't want to be too precious about it. After all, it's just a sci-fi TV show. Sci-fi TV shows come and go, and it's really easy when you're a part of something to feel like it's the most important thing in the world. But there's also a part of me that knows that this is unusual, and the community that we built, and this fandom, and the charitable impact that we have collectively had on the world is pretty impressive. And the way I honestly feel like this fandom has almost created a template of the ideal fandom, because not only does this fandom embrace the mythology of the TV show that it's coalesced around, but it's also formed this incredibly supportive network for one another. Like, I see people in the Supernatural fandom taking care of each other all the time in really meaningful ways. And that's really lovely. It's in the truest sense of the word, it's a community. And that is a template that I think any fandom of any show or musician should strive to emulate. And at the same time, we're taking care of one another. There's a lot of real generosity from this fandom to the outside world as well. We've managed to do some really cool projects together and raise a lot of money for really good causes. And I think people take the seed, I think a lot of people in this community take like the seed of our community ethos of watching out for each other and being kind out into the world and have a net positive impact on the world, which is pretty impressive if you think about it, because it's a show about like two Texans who run around shooting things. And yet I think it's really been a force for good in the world. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess this community is what I hope to bring with me into the next chapter of my life, and I certainly hope that it doesn't go away as the show goes off the air. I hope that this family sticks. It's a lifestyle, yes. It's not a choice. Yeah, but I do feel very lucky to have been a part of it, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of charitable things, I always forget to mention the things that I'm supposed to mention, so I'm going to mention a couple of things. One is that on Monday evening, Random Acts is, or really Jason Manns is hosting a fundraiser for Random Acts that's in the city. And I am going to do my best to stop by. It's like, I'm catching the last flight back to Vancouver that night, so I can't stay for the whole thing, but I'm going to try to stop by on my way to the airport. And I think there are still some tickets available, so if anybody wants to come Monday night into the city, that would be awesome. And yeah, that's all. There is another thing, and I can't remember what it is that I'm not mentioning. Donations, that's right. To what? Yes. It's on my Facebook page. Oh, donations here? Yes. Now we're talking about the same thing. I knew we'd get there eventually. Yes, you can look on my Facebook page because there's an update about the fundraiser that Random Acts is doing here at the convention as well. And and if you haven't bought the cookbook that I wrote, maybe with Vicky, maybe do. Thanks. Because all of the profits are going to charities related to childhood nutrition, and it's actually a good book. So if you know anybody that has kids, or you have kids, or if you're a child yourself and you have your parents' credit card, buy a copy. If we buy copies in advance for the first week of the on-sale date, then it has a better chance of getting on the bestseller list, and then more people will get the book in the long run. So that's the hard pitch. And that's all I have to tell you about. No, there's another thing. We did this t-shirt. This is an example of this community being so incredible. A few weeks ago, we did a little initiative with Hot Topic, Holly Alice at Warner Brothers. She called and she's like, hey guys, Hot Topic was wondering if we could do 100% of proceeds to the charity of your choice thing like we did last year. It would be really cool. And we're like, okay, but we're all going to feel like we're promoting too many things all the time. But we're like, yeah, we'll do it, because there's, causes that we want to support. And we kind of thought it would be like a really not a lot of money. And you guys bought enough t-shirts. 100% of the profits went to Random Acts, and it's going to primarily to Hurricane Dorian survivors. It was $280,000. So, thank you guys for doing that. Those of you who did, and those of you who didn't, shame on you. Hi.
To be fair, it was a
So, my question is, if you weren't an angel on the show, what monster would you want to be?
What?
If you were not an angel on the show, what monster would you want to be?
Are you calling angels monsters?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, maybe one of the Winchester brothers. Yeah, great question. Hi.
Hi. First off, can you say hi to my friend Brianna? Because she loves you more than I do.
Hi. Hey.
Second, my question is.
Hey, Brianna. What's your name?
My name's Natalia.
Natalia?
Yeah.
Brianna, maybe you could help Natalia work on her social skills. Yes, your question.
How long did it take to do a scene with Jerry?
Yeah.
We had
Tough life.
we shot a scene together. Very poor decision on the director's part. Jared is unconscious for 2 scenes, and Jared has a stunt double who was on set that day because there was also a stunt. And had he been lying face down or his face obscured or something, the stunt double could have done the Jared work. Unfortunately, he was lying his face unobstructed and face up. So Jared himself had to be there. But that's bored Jared, which is the worst kind of Jared. And this part was my fault. In blocking rehearsal, I stood kind of close to the foot of, like, this is the end of the bed. I stood close to the end of the bed that he was lying on, and his feet were right there. And so, of course, during all of my coverage, his foot was just giving me a very happy ending. And it was getting very challenging. And we were not making headway, and we were almost 4 hours behind schedule. And so finally we got to a place where we could frame his face out of shots. And our first AD, Kevin, said, "Jared, get out." And Jared said, "No, it's important that I'm here. I need to be here for my castmates." And Kevin was so mad. He was like, "You get out of here." He grabbed him by the arm and physically removed him and walked down the hall, the Meadow Letters hallway, pushing him, saying, "Get the fuck out!" I love it when Kevin gets mad. I love it also when Jared gets kicked off his own set. Thanks. There was a scene in which Jared and Jensen were being impossible, and eventually the director said, "Both of you, out." And I was like, "Yeah, get out. I can't do my coverage. Get out." And they were like, "Ha," and they left. And then they got outside the door. This was like season 5, maybe late in season 4. And they got out, and the door shut behind them, and they were like, "Did we just get kicked off our own set? What just happened?" And that was the first of many times that has happened. But it takes a long time. It takes a very long time. There was a scene in not too long ago where Jared, Sam tackles Cass onto the floor, and then is on top, straddling on top of me. And I had a conversation with Phil Screesha recently, who shot that episode, and there was one take that was about 15 minutes long. And by the way, if we just read the scripted dialogue, it would have been about 10 seconds. And literally 15 minutes of some very, very inappropriate footage was captured. Our camera operator had tears just streaming down his face. And then Phil was like, "That is going to be the entire gag reel. That was amazing." And we all had to like take a little break after, cover. It was very funny material. And then I talked to Phil later, and he was like, "Yeah, so then I realized I would get fired, and you would both get fired if that footage ever saw the light of day. So I deleted the file." It's like, good call. Really good call. Yeah, so to answer your question, if a scene is 10 seconds long, it takes at least 15 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Misha. I often use you as an example of a wildly creative yet effective leader. When you look at the leadership professor on Kennedy case.
Effective?
Effective.
Defective?
No.
We're talking about a different person, I think.
No, no.
Okay. You're a professor?
I'm a professor of leadership, so yeah, I would know. Yeah. So.
You must be tenured. There's no way.
I am.
That explains it. Okay.
So, when you...
They can't fire you.
No, they can't.
I see.
When you look at the collective good works of the fandom, how do you see your role in it, and how do you see your role going forward when the show goes on the air?
It's funny. I guess I see myself as a little bit of an instigator. I'm somebody who often I do take issue with your leadership characterization, but that's something we can talk about later. when you're on sabbatical. I'm somebody who likes to generate ideas. They often, like when I'm out for a run or something like that, things pop into my head and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And I love to generate ideas. I'm not great at actually implementing them.
Right.
But I discovered that there was like a bunch of people in this fandom who were good at implementing things. And so I could sort of like maybe have to generate some ideas and then people would help me actually bring them to fruition. So there was a symbiosis between me and the fandom. And then as we started to work together a little bit, me and select volunteers who were helping with random acts or Kish or whatever, we would, I would come up with more ideas. Ideas that they didn't want to do. And we're really frustrated because it's like, yeah, but that would be tomorrow, and there's no way we can implement that, and please stop giving us your ideas. But I think that sometimes I don't, like it's just my personality, I'm not great at boring down into the operations or the logistics of things, and
you're the visionary.
Or the monkey wrench in the works, depending on how you look at it. But I feel like I could be much better at working with people than I am. But thanks for saying that. I guess I was also at the beginning when I got on the show. I think I was responding to something that I saw latent in the fandom. We would come to these conventions and sign, at the autograph table, people would come up with these incredible works of art, for example, or, mosaics and needlepoint portraits and incredible paintings and 3D sculptures. And you could see that there was this incredible creative energy that was going into creating these things. And there was, I guess I've always had sort of a political bent or something. Like I think I have this bug, like I should try to do something, good for the world or something. And when, but I saw that there was like all of this energy going into making these things, I thought, well, maybe we could all channel some of that energy into building an orphanage in Haiti after the earthquake, or doing some big project like that, and see if we can channel that energy in a different direction. And everybody was game, and we did some really awesome stuff together. But for me, that really started by seeing that there was something there in the fandom.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll let anybody be a professor now. Too far. I went too far.
Lynn.
Hi.
I'm Bella, and my question is, if you're part of a band, what would it be called? And who would be in it?
If I'm part of a band?
Yeah.
If I'm part of a band, who would be in it?
Who would be in it? What would it be called? And what instruments would you guys play?
Well, it's pretty easy for me. It would be me and my kids, and it'd be called Clam Let Go. Because we were sitting around talking about starting a band, me and the kids, at least musical 3 people in the world. And I was like, what should we call the band? And Mason's like, how about Clam Let Go? Just like that, as if like, it's kind of an obvious fit for us. So, actually I saw a couple of people there was somebody in the photo op, so like a clamshell today, and they were grabbing onto me and I said, clam, and I was like, let go. Very dramatic. And whatever the music would be, it would be something that has the most possible profanity in it. Because that's what the kids seem to be magnetically attracted to. They love anything that has profanity in it. I have this really cute video of Mason sitting, we were just like getting out, stopping at the grocery store, and I have this cute video of Mason still sitting in her car seat, and she had overheard a song that played from my playlist by this musician named Stu. And And there's a line in it that says, "Naked Dutch painter in the kitchen does not want to fuck you." And Mason's maybe 2.5 or 3. Naked Dutch painter in the kitchen does not want to fuck you. So sweet. She's very, very sweet. We have this little game sometimes that we play where we're a monster family, and there are vegetables there, and we're like, oh, we're gonna that's the monster talking to the vegetable. Oh, hi there, broccoli, little broccoli baby. How are you today? Hey, I noticed that you are really cramped up in that drawer there. Are you okay? Are you comfortable? So green and fresh and full today. That's so nice. Hey, listen, so funny thing, we're gonna have to eat your face now. And we did this recently, and Wes was like, maybe we shouldn't eat broccoli tonight. And Mason said, no, I think it's their time. She's got that little savoir. Thank you.
Hi, Misha. So first of all, I just want to say that I love you so much. You are literally one of the most amazing people in the world, and you inspire me every day to be the best person that I can be, with random acts and all your charity and everything.
That is so kind of you. Did you happen to take the class with that woman?
No, I'm at Loyola University, Maryland. Roll Hounds.
I don't know your school cheer. I'm sorry, I can't help.
So I had another question, but it was too weird, so I'm going to ask a different one.
Okay, what was the question?
So my friends and I asked this question because we just have the weirdest sense of humor, and my friend just asked this one day, unprompted at lunch. What would you do if you woke up one day and you had hot dogs for legs? And apparently there is a correct answer.
Well, I'm not going to tell the story because I know Jensen wants to tell it tomorrow. But there's an incredible related story that I'm sure he will convey tomorrow. Somebody make sure to ask him about wieners, okay? Say, Misha said you were going to tell a story about wieners.
On it.
Yeah, maybe don't say that. I don't know.
They pick me.
Well, like how big are they? Leg-sized hot dogs or just tiny little?
No, they're the size of your legs.
So regular leg-sized, unattached?
Yeah.
So my legs are just not, I have no legs.
Yeah.
In this scenario. Well, I certainly would not go for a jog, I'll tell you that much. You're right, your friends are weird.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys that. I think I would be disappointed, for starters. Like, oh, this is a bad morning. Not only do I not have my human legs anymore that articulate at several joints, but also my legs are gone, except for they're right there, except for they're filled with nitrates. I guess they have a long shelf life. It's the plus side. They can give you trichinosis, maybe.
According to my friend, the correct answer is invite celebrities over and have a barbecue.
I guess it does give new meaning to the phrase, eat me. There's a little known fact about hot dogs. If you were on a desert island and you were given the choice to eat kale, white bread, or hot dogs, and one food only for the rest of eternity on the desert island, which would be the correct thing to choose? And I'll tell you, it's hot dogs. You live longer with hot dogs. Isn't that shocking? You won't live that long, but you'll live longer with hot dogs.
What kind of island
That's a
is
true
that?
fact. The only true fact you will get from me today. Is that where this conversation ends?
I mean, if you want it to.
Okay, great. Yes.
Hi, Misha.
Hi.
I just wanted to say you're the reason, you and Castiel are the reason I got into this show. But my question is...
You have great taste. And I like your wardrobe.
Thank you.
Do your wings open?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see them? Whoa! Nice work. Did you build that yourself?
I had my parents' help.
Great. You have good and very handy parents.
Yeah, this is my first con.
Are they in aerospace? What?
This is my first con.
Oh, well, welcome. How's it going so far?
I love it.
Oh, good. Good. Have you hurt anyone with your wings yet?
I'm trying not to.
Okay. You're not directly answering the question.
No.
Okay, good.
My question is, with your angel blade, how it comes out of your sleeve, have you ever accidentally dropped it or got stuck in your sleeve while it's coming out?
All the time. Yep. It's very common for us to do, like, close up on me, and then the camera drops down to reveal the thing dropping out, and I'll be like, that's super not cool, and we have to do it again. Although I wish maybe at some point we could keep that in the show. Be like, Cass is like, Dean, I got this. Hold on a second. Oops. Nobody's taking a picture, are you? I would do that, but there's like one angle, and I'm like, I shouldn't have held the microphone there. It's all over Tumblr.
No, Tumblr censors porn now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you so much for making this an awesome con for me and my best friend.
Happy birthday, right?
Yes.
Yes, happy birthday.
Okay, so this question is actually from Mary. She said, what scene have you always wanted to film but haven't gotten to?
What, do you have an idea of a scene that you haven't seen on the show but you want to see?
I would like to see you play lead guitar.
Okay. Great. What? Shirtless lead guitar? I don't know if that's like the most flattering angle. You kind of get rolls when you do that. I'd rather do something like this with the right lighting. Okay. I'll think about that. I don't have a good answer for you. I actually do have an answer, but I can't tell you because I'm hoping that it ends up in the show. There's a scene that I would really like to see on the show, and I can't tell you what it is in there. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so I love you. You inspire me every day, just for that. And I just...
I'm blushing now. Thank you.
Oh my god. I forgot how to talk. If you could go back to when you, like, before you started Supernatural and, like, before you started the show, what would
And choose a different career?
That, or you could tell yourself something to inspire you. It's your choice.
I don't know, that's a good question. I guess I spent a little bit of time I spent too much time when I first got on the show and first started to see that there was this incredible fandom, and then the show had this bubbling underground sort of cult phenomenon that was happening with it. When I first saw that, I started to get like anxious, like, oh, are they going to kill me? Are they going to get rid of me? Is this fleeting? Is this just going to be short-lived, and I'll be a flash in the pan on the show? And I guess I guess it would be nice to be able to go back and tell myself, just appreciate the moment when you have it. Because I actually think that I didn't get to enjoy that I was part of this really cool thing as much as I would have in the beginning because I was so worried about losing it, which is a personality trait that I demonstrate in other areas of my life a lot of the time. I think it sort of takes me out of the present moment sometimes. I really like something. I'm often like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose this right while I'm enjoying it, you know, instead of allowing myself just to appreciate it. I'm trying to appreciate the show right now and everything that it's brought into my life and the opportunities it's afforded me. It's pretty incredible. And yet sometimes I've noticed myself seizing up a little bit. And I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen next? Is this all I'm ever going to accomplish with my life? Which it is, but still quite well. Yeah. So thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah. How many conventions have you been to? This is your second? Yeah. If you could go back to before your first convention and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
I'd probably tell myself that, I don't know, I would say to be less nervous, but that's obviously not working out that well.
You're doing very well. You don't seem that nervous. I mean, I'm lying a little bit. You do seem a little nervous, but yeah. But you know, that's also it's sort of like what I'm saying. That kind of hindsight is almost impossible to ever implement because we don't have the ability to time travel, unfortunately. Yeah. Cass used to be able to time travel. Now he can't. Sucks. Cass used to be able to do a lot of things that he can't do anymore. Some of it is unexplained.
Try Viagra.
Yeah. What happened to Cass? Well, I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't there a time when like Cass just put his hand up and like knocked the door down or the wall down, and now he's like, or he had like superhuman strength, and now he's like, ow, that stung. But we won't dwell on that. On set, we say, don't pull the thread. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I would just like to start off saying I love you. Castiel's my absolute favorite character. And who came up with the name of Misha Migos?
Ben Edlund. It was a parody of Misha's Minions, which was a mistake I made early on when I got on Twitter. When I got on Twitter, I didn't know what Twitter was, but I could see that like people were calling their followers, and I was like, you guys aren't followers. You're better than that. You're minions. And then Misha's Minions stuck. And so for a while, they were calling themselves and Misha's Minions. And then Ben Edlund was parodying that by calling my followers Misha Egos. But now, everyone has forgotten about Misha's Minions, and people are always like, hey, I'm a Misha Ego. And I'm like, that's not a real thing. Thanks for asking. Hi.
Hi. Okay. So I actually...
Are you reading your texts right now?
No, I was
hold on. Somebody just sent me a funny gift. Hold on.
So I kind of did the Sam and Dean experience. I drove here all the way from Phoenix, Arizona.
OMG. Wow.
By myself, so that's
really?
Kind of fun.
And in climate week, no less. No,
yeah.
Carbon guilt tripping.
Yeah, anyway, so that...
Wait, so how long did it take you?
7 days.
Oh, you made a whole road trip out of it.
An entire road trip out of it. I stopped at the Family Business Beer Company, and I stopped at a couple of places.
Awesome. Was it a great trip?
It was an amazing trip.
Oh, how cool.
Anyway, my question is, so you've influenced how Castiel is and who he is. I was wondering how Castiel has influenced you.
So influence is a loaded term. There was a panel that Jared and I did together long ago. You knew you were using that word on purpose. Shame on you. A panel that that Jared and I did in Rome, where for some reason the term influence ended up being a veiled euphemism for, I'm trying to put this delicately, ejaculation. And we, being the juveniles that we are, thought it was very funny.
So did we.
So now that's where I am. Thank you. It's a really interesting thing to be playing a character for so long, for 12 years. And yes, my influence is all over Castiel. And I mean, there's a fair amount of my influence inside him as well. When I first got on the show, Castiel was like this tough warrior, no nonsense. You don't fuck with this guy, he's serious. And that was episode 1 and episode 2. Those first 2 scripts were already written before I was cast. And then very quickly the character sort of morphed into this socially awkward dork. And that was all me. I brought that to the table. We're going to modify this character a little bit to accommodate our casting mistake. And that's how Castiel evolved. Castiel, I think, always, for all his faults, for all of his social awkwardness, for all of his inexplicably fleeting superpowers, he always tries to do his best. No matter what the situation, you know that Castiel has a compass that's pointing him toward doing the right thing and doing good. And that is obviously basically the opposite of me, but I do think about that, earnestly think about that from time to time. Like there are people out there like Castiel, who's not a person, who doesn't really exist, and I'm aware of that, who are trying to do the right thing all the time and that you can count on to be that way. And I in all seriousness, take inspiration from him from time to time for that reason. It's a strange thing to play a character for so long because it starts to feel real. And I think Jared and Jensen would say the same thing. We've spent so many countless hours embodying these characters that they begin to feel like a side of ourselves, and we feel emotionally connected to them. There was a time when Jared and Jensen and I were talking about the end of the show and a dream that Jensen had about the end of the show where Dean drives the Impala to a crossroads and meets a man who has a motorcycle, and he trades keys with him. And he's doing that because he no longer needs a passenger seat, because Sam is dead. This is a very vivid dream that Jensen had, and all 3 of us teared up, as if the idea of Dean losing Sam was so emotionally poignant to us because we've lived with these characters for so long. As much as we fuck around on set, and as much as we don't prepare and are totally unprofessional, we can't help the fact that these characters have become deeply emotionally intertwined with our own selves. And yeah, I don't know. So that wasn't related to your question, and I'm sorry for wasting your time. Those are 10 minutes you're never going to get back. You can see Stephanie for a refund. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you witnessed something very special. And I want you to take this home with you. You just saw
You should answer a question.
give a genuine answer. Never happened before. Ladies and gentlemen, Misha! You can't get out of here fast enough.
It really just proves that they really don't care what we have to say.
We care. You know, we were going to say something nice about all of you, but you know, screw it.
But you guys.
I'm kidding. We weren't going to say anything nice about you until
we know you have some sort of be.
Yeah, you got it.
More important than this, but
everybody off to the Tinkle Hut. They held it for the entire college thing. But now it's wee o'clock.
So it's now potty
Richard,
time?
what's the plan? Let me tell you what the plan.
Okay.
You're gonna get some autographs.
What are you doing?
Photographs.
Are we done?
We have to go get our makeup on for the show.
Oh, time to glue on the toupees. All right, well, listen. Make no mistake. This little musical ensemble becomes the rock stars they truly are tonight, right here in the middle of this stage. Don't make the mistake of missing it. It's going to be another one. It always is here in New Jersey. All right, go get your autographs, go get your photographs, go get your pie graphs, go do whatever it is you have to do, and we'll see you back here tonight.
See you tonight.